You're listening to Demand and Disrupt, the podcast for information about accessibility, advocacy, and all things disability.
Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Parsley.
And I'm your co-host, Sam Moore, coming to you from Henderson while Kimberly is in Bowling Green, and we're making a little history on this episode, folks, because, well, Kimberly's in the same city that she always is, but she's in a slightly different location on the same property because she has a brand new podcasting office space, don't you, Kimberly?
I do. Michael built me a studio out in the garage. I've been using it as office space, and that's been nice. But this is the actual first time that I have recorded a podcast episode in it. So I hope I sound good. I got a little podcasting booth. Oh, thank you. It's a podcasting booth. It's basically like egg crate mattresses in the shape of a cube. I feel like I need to stick my head in it. I'm told I don't. Microphone's in there. Ian tells me a lot of the VTubers have this sort of setup. So yeah, I feel cool. I feel all cool.
Well, we want you to feel cool because
whether I am or not, but hey.
I didn't say you are cool. No, I'm kidding.
I know, but you left that.
Only kidding.
Well,
but anyway, regardless of how cool we are or not, it's important to feel that way.
But our guest today is absolutely cool.
Yes.
Her name is Dr. Kara Ayers. She has been on before. I believe she might have been episode 2. She is going to be talking about parking. And a few state legislatures have come out to say people who are pregnant can park in the disability parking spots, which sounds reasonable. Sounds reasonable to me, doesn't it, you, Sam?
Generally, yeah. I tell you, and if it's funny if I were to say, well, heck no, I'd have a bunch of people. I'd probably have a bunch of females writing into me saying, well, Sam, you try being pregnant. But
Exactly. But, there is more to the story.
And I know she dropped some big time research on us.
Oh, Kara is such a researcher. She really is. But yeah, she tells us what she thinks some of the motivations behind these bills are, what legislatures could do to make actual improvements in maternal health, and the impact that such policies have on parking for people who are disabled. And,
right.
Some of those people who are disabled are also pregnant.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes you get both of them. They're disabled and pregnant.
So she comes on. I have a fascinating conversation with her where she breaks all that down for us. And, Kara's one of those people I walk away feeling smarter for having talked to her. So it's
that's
wonderful.
One of those people that maybe I need to hang around a little more often myself.
Big week here. I don't mean to belabor the point, but I do have a graduating senior. Ian is graduating. I know. He left for school yesterday, his last day of high school, and I bawled like an absolute baby.
I tell you, we talked about it before we went on the air here, and he deserves a shout out because it's not every year you get to graduate. And in fact, he told me his graduation is actually the very day after this happy little show comes out.
Yep. We're Sunday. Coming out on Saturday. He graduates on Sunday, the 24th. Did make it through high school with a 4.0. So
how about that? And he's going to be a hilltopper, which we're both proud of.
I'm going to be a hilltopper. Very exciting.
No, you told me, where is his graduation going to be in the Bowling Green High School gym?
It is, because they've got a big arena. They got
so they got plenty of room to spread out and all that.
I don't know if they got plenty of room. I mean, there's going to be a ton of people there. Like I'm going to get there like 2 hours early.
2 hours early. You might just come straight from church.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely. I'm gonna get there 2 hours early, and I bet you there'll be a line. I don't know. There may already be people camping out. Who knows? It may be like
I'm telling you, they might all be waiting for Ian to get there, but he may have a bunch of autograph requests waiting on him when he shows up. But But anyway, yeah, it's, some of you may be crammed in there like sardines, but it'll be well worth it.
We are excited. We've excited. That's I can't really think past that, but now that it's here, I'm like, oh, wonder if I should have made some other summer plans. So, Sam, do you have any big plans for summer or things you want to
Well,
do? Or?
I am doing a belated birthday celebration in Louisville, not this weekend, but next weekend. And I'm mom and I are going up there, and we're going to see some family. She's got a cousin that lives there, and well, several cousins for that matter. But there's one and his wife that are going to come meet us, and we're going to do a little lunch gathering and powwow, and then I'm going to meet up with actually a couple of my former college friends from Western that live up there, and we're going to go to a Louisville Bats game. That would be Saturday night. So I've got that go. That's about the biggest summer plan that I have so far, and that's actually, I guess, more of a spring plan because it's the last weekend of May. But anyhow, here we are talking about.
Now, was it your birthday? Was it your birthday or your mom's birthday?
It was my birthday this past Tuesday.
Happy late birthday, Sam.
I appreciate that, Kimberly. And for those of you that meant to send me presents on that exact day or before, no worries, you can still send them. I gladly accept belated.
You don't mind them late.
No, drag out the birth. In fact, that's part of why we're doing this Louisville trip a week and a half later. I'm all for dragging this party out as long as possible.
I like it. Yep. I like how you think. Well, happy late birthday, Sam.
I appreciate that, Kimberly. You know what? When I go to that Bats game, I'm hoping that if our man Dave Mathis is there, that he says hey to me, because I know that Dave Mathis from Center of Accessible Living in Louisville, he attends Bats games on what seems like a pretty frequent basis. And so I'm hoping if he sees me that, well, he may or may not know what I look. He'll recognize my cane, though. He'll recognize my cane.
Your cane and your voice. Now, Dave is fully retired. He is retired from Center for Accessible Living now.
Oh, no, gosh, how'd I miss that? I don't know how, but anyhow.
Still working, because he still works all the time. Still works for the Avocado Press. So that's exciting.
Still heavily involved.
Involved, yeah.
But anyhow, yeah. But we have heard about Dave attending a lot of Bats games, and I was thinking, I think we were kind of both thinking before we went on the air here, wouldn't it be fun, Kimberly, if you and I could do a Demand and Disrupt podcast episode from Louisville Slugger Field?
That would be great. And I think Dave should make that happen.
I'm telling you, and we could do a slugger dog, which, I've been to Slugger Field plenty of times. I've never had a slugger dog, but apparently what that is, Kimberly, it's a foot-long dog with pretty much everything on it under the sun. And I probably don't want to know how messy it is or how many calories it is, but I might have to splurge.
I was just about to say that sounds like a mess waiting to happen.
It's probably heartburn too.
I wouldn't even get that. I would end up wearing all this, the whole thing. I mean,
that's true. Yeah. I probably would too. But for a special, if we were to do the Man and Disrupt episode, I might have to get a slugger dog to celebrate the occasion.
So, of course, we talked about recording an episode from a ballpark, and then Keith Hosey, I don't know, let's say, I would say I was sure he meant well, but he didn't. He meant to poke at me when he was at Wrigley Field seeing a Cubs game. So,
oh yes, yes. Yeah. I got that too. I think we were both tagged in that post.
I think he was being a turd. I love you, Keith. I think you were being a turd.
He was trying to rub it in because you're a Cubs fan, and even though I'm a Cardinals fan, I would still gladly go to Wrigley Field just for the history of the place and And maybe we could even do a Cards Cubs game at Busch Stadium sometime. That would be closer and maybe a little more feasible, shall we say?
Listen, I am told that my daughter tells me that I promised her a trip to Chicago.
Oh, you promised Sarah a trip to Chi-Town?
That's what I'm talking. I have no recollection of this. And as Ian says, I don't know that you promised it, but I feel like you might as well have, given that she's not going to let it go. So
it's stuck in her. It's stuck in her head now permanently.
She's living some sort of alternate reality wherein I promised, and so
goodness, she's going to keep telling you, or whether you actually promised that or not, she's going to keep telling you did.
Yeah, I think she's going to have us convinced that maybe we did. So I don't think Michael's loving the idea of going to Chicago, but I mean,
he may not have a choice.
It feels like no one has a choice.
Oh, mercy.
So,
but anyhow, well, if you do, you'll have fun. And for one thing, I know that all of the Parsleys love their pizza, and there is no shortage of pizza restaurants in Chicago. You'll have to
none at all. So yeah,
go in there and eat that Chicago style thick crust pizza that they're so well known for.
That, and you told me about the places. I know we're going to Memphis, so I know you told me about the places at the barbecue places in Memphis. And
oh yeah, we talked about Flynn's, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, you'll have to go there.
And I believe we're going to try to get up to Louisville at some point. Baseball game or not, with our old pal Jerry Wheatley. Planning on just grabbing him and taking him.
Oh yeah,
and
you can pick him up and.
Yep. Picking him and Lee up on the way and going to Louisville and just hang out with the crowd.
Yeah, Jerry's in Bardstown, right?
He is in
Bardstown. That's what I thought. So yeah, that's about halfway between you and Louisville. So that would be perfect.
Yeah. So any other of our disruptors out there who want us to get together, or we'll have a big disruptor meetup. So how might they get in touch with me, Sam, if they want to do that?
This email,
let us know.
I tell you, this email address is so hard to remember, but I'm gonna go ahead and reel it off anyhow. It's demandanddisrupt@gmail.com. How did we ever come up with that address, Kimberly?
There it is. That is how the fine folks can reach out. Tell me what you're doing, what you want to do, where you're at. I would love to get.
Yeah, questions, comments,
we'll do
show ideas. We welcome.
Demand and disrupt on the road. We'll take the show on the road.
Yeah, we could do it. We could do it from different locations and different restaurants, and we could sort of mix the business with the pleasure.
We could. We already talked about dragging you down here to Bowling Green. So
yes, we had that discussion off air, and yes, that's in the works too.
So lots of things. Summer's going to be exciting, y'all. I have good feelings.
I'm ready to swim, Kimberly. It's funny. I love to swim, but I have not swam in several years now because we don't have a pool, and I don't have friends with pools. So and my Aunt Sandy and Uncle Charlie, who used to have a lake house. They used to have a trailer down at Lake Barkley, and we would go down there at least once or twice a summer to boat and swim and that sort of thing. But they sold that trailer, Kimberly. They sold that trailer. We can't go down there anymore.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That's just travesty. But anyhow,
I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll find a way to swim.
I don't go swimming very much either. Just when we're on vacations, honestly. If we're on a vacation, I might go swimming. But other than that, at home, I don't think I went last year at all either. So, yeah.
I'm not the biggest, I'll just go ahead and say I'm not the biggest public pool fan because, for one, especially on weekends, they're just crowded as all get out. And, you try to reach and pull and you end up yanking somebody's hair, and that's no fun. And then they're mad at you,
It is, the accessibility of that is difficult. And that is why I don't go as well. It's the exact same thing.
I prefer a nice big lake or river where I can just put a life jacket on and there's plenty of water to go around.
Yeah, or I mean, I don't mean to be snobby, but like a resort where there's not going to be as much people, like you said, not as many people to grab hold of accidentally.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Uh,
not trying to be snobby here at all, folks.
oh no,
We just like our space.
yeah, we have a great public pool here in we have a great public pool here in Bowling Green, but I'm not familiar with it. It always seems too crowded for me to do any kind of orientation there. So I tend to be a little
I used to
intimidated
like I used
by
to
it.
like ours
Uh,
at Atkinson Pool in Henderson when I was growing up, and I used to like the slide there, but it's and plus it's gotten to where the lifeguards are most of the lifeguards are half my age now. A lot of them are in high school or early college, and so if I feel like if I were to go to our local Atkinson Pool, I would be like twice the age of not only the lifeguards but most of the swimmers.
oh, I bet you would find that there's a lot of people your age there. I mean,
Yeah,
I
maybe.
bet you would find that would be true. Yeah.
Maybe so.
Now my kids want to go to beach. We do have Beach Bend, so my kids have talked about
Yes.
Beach Bend, which
You
I
could
don't
go to.
understand is a beach in Bowling Green, and I don't really. I've never been. So have you been?
I can't say that I have, and I'm a little ashamed to admit that. As much time as I spent in Bowling Green,
Well, now
during my
you got to
college
find
days,
somebody from Beach Bend to have on Blabbing of Bluegrass. So that's how I'm going to know.
that's how we'll educate ourselves. Yeah, I'll do a
Yeah.
Beach Bend
I
show,
mean,
and then I'll make sure that you get your ears on that, and we'll both learn. But I love Kentucky Legend is a big deal. I'm not a big coaster guy, Kimberly, but Kentucky Legend is apparently a very popular roller coaster, or the
now where's
Kentucky
that at?
Legend, or
Where's
maybe
that
it's
at?
the Kentucky Rumbler, but it's at Beach Bend.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. See, I don't do.
I know Kentucky is in the name. I think it's the Kentucky
I
Rumbler.
don't do roller coasters at all.
I really don't. I've done
Yeah,
a few,
yeah.
and that was enough for me to know that I'm just not a coaster person.
I used to. I mean, I don't. I used to not mind them, but when you factor in like the vertigo that I'm prone to, I mean, I'm already like, no. I'm already probably spinning half the time anyway. I don't want to add some roller coaster love into that. Just not gonna.
I
No.
don't blame you. Yeah, who to talk to?
You know, I don't have big vacation plans, but we are very spur of the moment people. I don't like to plan a lot and stuff. So you never know. We may just up
Well,
and
and
decide to do
sometimes
something.
plans don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Sometimes
so
the
many,
harder you try to plan, the less likely things are to actually fall into place. So it's good to be spur of the moment.
I remember one time when we were planning our only trip to Disney World, and we were like, it's like 8 weeks out. We were planning it, which is like a huge planning for us. And the person we were talking to
Right.
was like, well, most people plan their trip about 6 months out. And I'm like, no.
Good grief. Not us.
Apparently, yeah, no, I'm like, this is why I don't go to a Disney World thing, because I don't know that I even have the capacity to plan that far in advance.
That's a lot of that's a lot of advanced planning. So
It is more than I'm capable of.
yeah, more than I am a lot of times too. I just
Yeah.
try to plan ahead for what I have to. Otherwise, just sort of fly by the seat of my pants. But anyway, yeah,
There you go.
but whatever you're doing, just take Demand and Disrupt along and Blabbing in the Bluegrass, and we'll try to keep you occupied and entertained.
Absolutely. And we're right here at Memorial Day, the unofficial beginning of summer. So happy summer, everyone.
Absolutely, yes. Take an extra dip in the pool for me.
And I'm thrilled to start off summer with this just fascinating interview with Dr. Kara Ayers.
Enjoy.
So I have a Google alert, and I track things of importance to the disability community, my fellow listeners, so you all don't have to. I bring you all the important stories. And something came up, and it was about accessible parking and pregnant women getting to use disability accessible parking spaces. And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, I remember what pregnancy was like. Sure, that that sounds fine to me. That doesn't sound like something we need to fight. And spoiler alert, gang, I was wrong. And the person who informed me of how wrong I was is Kara Ayers, and she is on the show with us today. And she wrote an article, and she is here to talk to me about that. Hello, Kara. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited about this conversation.
I I didn't even know this was a conversation that I needed to have, and how wrong I was. So, your article that I saw is a Substack, which anyone who doesn't know is a newsletter, kind of newsletter publisher, sort of, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's just a platform for people to publish their writings. Kind of reminds me of like the good old days with blogs, which I enjoyed.
It, yes, yeah, it does. And so this was a Substack newsletter that
Mhm.
that you had written, and it's called "Performative Policy Won't Save Maternal Health and It Breaks Disability Access." So you are not mincing words right from the top. Go ahead and please do inform me and everyone about how wrong I was thinking this was okay.
Well, I think it's totally understandable, when you, on first glance, this is one of many policies that, as you said, seems okay, but we have to think about unintentional consequences of policies. And unfortunately, many times people with disabilities bear the unintentional consequences of policies that don't include thinking about us, and even better and more importantly, including us in the policymaking process. So, what this policy proposes is that women who are pregnant would go to their doctor, and so different states approach this a little bit differently. Some states like Illinois say that during the third trimester pregnant people can talk to their doctor and get an accessible parking placard. Other states like Florida have actually said at any point in pregnancy, so upon finding out you're pregnant with at your doctor's office, you could leave that office that day with a placard, signed script for an accessible parking spot that you could take to your DMV. And not only is this going to put thousands of more placards in people's cars, which we already know there's a mismatch between the percentage of spots that have to be allocated according to the Americans with Disabilities Act and the number of people that have these placards. And then you pile on top of that the abuse of where many people park in the spots whether they have a placard or not. So that really got me thinking more deeply about, wait a minute, does this really help? Or as I titled the article, is it more performative? Is it more intended to look as though we're helping pregnant people and we're supporting maternal health outcomes? And when we dig a little bit deeper, I think on both sides of the issue, we see that it's not doing what it proposes to do. So I think on the pregnancy side of the issue, there's a lot of variability in pregnancy. And the main point that I point out is that if a pregnant woman is experiencing health complications related to her pregnancy that are causing her kind of short-term disability, it's difficult for her to walk, maybe she's short of breath. She, as it stands right now, can go to her doctor and get a short-term disability accessible placard. So that we don't need a new law for that. That is, right now a reality. So this policy kind of makes it seem like that we're fixing a problem that isn't there. And then, of course, the other side of the coin is also that we're adding a lot of people that would now have access to these spots, that many of which don't necessarily need them, and they're then competing for the spots with those that do. Um, so it's something you got to dig a little deeper on, I think, but it totally makes sense why at first glance it seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and the thing in thank you for making me not feel so stupid anymore. I appreciate that. The thing in your article that grabbed me most was when you said, and I was a pregnant mother. And I'm like, I was a pregnant disabled person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, we do exist, because sometimes
Mhm.
we forget, right? That those two things can exist at the same time. So tell me, as a disabled person and a wheelchair user, what that accessible parking space means. What,
Yeah.
like physically, but also like to your life, but also what is an accessible parking space? I guess let's start there.
Right. So accessible parking places, yes, they're usually closer to the front door. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that the main purpose is that convenience. When, for me at least, there are a couple of things that are much more important than that. One being just the practical nature of, so I exit my vehicle out of so I have a minivan. I exit out the side door. I actually don't have a lift or a ramp, but I still need enough room to drop my manual wheelchair down out of that door. And in most typically measured parking spots, I don't have room to do that. So I literally cannot get in or out of my vehicle without that additional space that the hash lines that you see between parking spots offer. So, sometimes I have to make decisions like, gosh, here's a spot that has the hash lines. I need them on my passenger side, for example. On the driver's side, I'm either going to need to back into this or or I'm going to need to find another spot. So there are just really practical reasons that people need spots in terms of they literally cannot get in and out of their vehicle. And then the second most important thing that is far above convenience to me is just safety. So I'm only about, between 3 and 4 feet tall in my wheelchair. And when people are backing up out of spots in parking lots, they don't expect to see someone my height. And it's really dangerous to move through a parking lot, with especially, when I think about when I have my kids too, there's a bunch of us that are all about 4 feet tall. And that's
Right.
like, not so if there were walkways that would connect further back spots to, I would actually, that's fine with me. So I'm just trying to reiterate that like the proximity to the front door is actually not at all top of my list. I'm not going to say it's not nice, especially when, this time of year we're navigating snow. And so there's at least less, sidewalk for me to navigate. But it's really the two things of literally being able to get in and out of my vehicle, and then also the safety issue, which is huge.
Mhm. Right. And then also, disabled people do get out and go places.
Yeah.
So what happens if you don't have parking? Because I'm sure
Right.
that
Yeah,
happens to you all the time, right?
it happens. And I don't know if I've been cursed by this article or thinking more about it, or I don't know, but I swear, since it got cold here in Ohio, November, December this year has been especially challenging, and I really don't know, is this just coincidence? Am I noticing it more? Um, I'm a psychologist, so I tend to believe that we tend to notice things more when we're thinking about them and talking about them. So it's probably that, but there have been multiple times this winter where I've needed to drive around and circle. And what's so frustrating is that there are spots available when I'm doing that, but they're not spots I can access. And that's what's frustrating to me with these potential policy changes, is that a pregnant person that does not have a health related complication related to their pregnancy could certainly pull into any of those open spots and go right in. And many people who do get placards could also do the same thing. And I do see sometimes people doing that, people that have a placard, but all the spots are full, but they easily zip into another spot and they can use that. And I'd still advocate for the need for people that maybe have transient disabilities. So meaning that maybe today their disability is such that they can't walk the distance, so they need that spot. Maybe tomorrow, their symptoms aren't flaring and they're able to walk from a regular spot. I guess all I can hope is that we as human beings would make those decisions on our own. But I still very much advocate and support the need for people that may not look like me. So I guess what I don't want, I'm always thinking of unintentional consequences. What I don't want is to suggest that I want people questioning somebody with a placard, why do you need that spot? You don't look like you have a disability. I don't support that, but I do empathize with the frustration, because I've circled lots and there have definitely been times, if it's, an errand or a shopping experience that I absolutely don't have to do, I've left, because I can't get in the front door safely. So, um, and that's not fun, and shouldn't be how our society is structured.
Yeah, because we have plenty of people policing those accessible parking spaces. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like I have balance issues, and
Yeah.
some days I am literal vertigo. Right, I have vertigo, so walking is just not a thing I can do easily. And if I'm out on a day like that, you can bet it's because I have to be, for whatever reason. I would choose to stay home, but I'm out. And so on those days, I will use the accessible parking space,
Yeah.
and I will I go in. My husband pushes me in a manual wheelchair because walking is just not a thing that's going to happen. And when we come back out, okay, and he pushes me out. The things people think, right? So, and
Yeah.
I stand up out of the wheelchair to get into the car, and he folds the wheelchair up and puts it away. Oh my gosh, the looks, he said, that people give, like all around. Everyone who's waiting for a parking spot is just giving us the stink eye. Like I am perpetuating some horrific con
Right.
on the driving public.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is not helpful. It's so odd because you're right. We do have like all this social policing of these spots, but we have remarkably little actual policing from law
Yes,
enforcement, I think. I mean,
yes.
I never see people ticketed. I never really see law enforcement circling spots. Again, maybe I'm missing it, but it doesn't really seem like they're actually policed by law enforcement. Unfortunately, they're policed in ways that, aren't helpful through people just looking at, glancing at somebody and making an assumption that they know. And
Mhm.
that's frustrating.
Or I mean, sometimes it's worse. I mean, I've heard of people being like yelled at, like
Yeah.
slanders and things used against people doing that,
Or
and
I've
then
heard about hateful notes that are
yes,
left on the car. And I mean,
hmm
that's
and
horrible. Nobody deserves that.
and because that kind of thing bleeds over into challenging every disabled person that you see, whether it's in a car, a
Yeah.
parking situation or not. And yeah, that's
Yeah, I would imagine, that would that would probably be an unexpected result if, I'm thinking of if someone who's 2 months pregnant, not visibly pregnant, gets one of these placards with they're going to face that too. I don't know if that would be worth it to them to have the spot. And I mean, to be clear, I think there are some stores that in my area that have a couple of spots reserved where it specifically says like this spot reserved for pregnant people and mothers with young children, I think is what it says or something. And that's great. Like, I think super,
mhm.
especially like cater to your clientele. I think the stores that typically have that in our area are like, Babies R Us and places where they know that, and I have no problem with um, places designating a few additional spaces for pregnant people. My issue is that it doesn't make sense that this is legislated in the same way that accessible parking currently is.
Yeah, and so how is that being legislated? Is it at the state level? Is it at the federal level? What are we talking about?
Yeah, it's at a state level right now. And so we have two states, to my knowledge, that have already passed, Florida and Illinois. Florida's law was actually just challenged on the basis of ADA. That initial challenge was thrown out just last month, actually, January of 2026. But it was thrown out a little bit on a technicality. The case wasn't specific enough. So it still stands to, there's still a question of is this in alignment with ADA, which is a federal law? And then we have several states, including Ohio, that have pending legislation. Although I'm grateful that as it stands right now in February 2026, our Ohio policy is on a kind of an indefinite pause. We've definitely let our legislators know, especially those that have co-sponsored it. And I think they're in a bit of a, wow, we didn't know some of this, which is exactly how you hope your legislators, will respond and listen to their constituents. So as of right now, this bill is not moving forward in Ohio. Of course, that could change any day. So advocacy is still important.
Mhm. And I do believe there, if this law hasn't been introduced, then at least there are rumblings about it in South Carolina.
Yeah,
Um,
South Carolina and a couple of other states. And it's sort of like this rolling, and unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because this policy has, the unintended consequences we've talked about. Um, it sort of is a trend, it takes off and it gets picked up by other states as well. And I think another unintended consequence that we haven't talked about yet is I think this sends a inaccurate message about typical pregnancy as well, indicating that, for most pregnant people through most of their pregnancy, they would not be able to walk relatively short distances. I mean, most parking lots are not, football fields. So I worry that we're sending this message that women during pregnancy are extremely frail, and and most of them have these health complications that would mean walking would be, and actually that's counter to most medical advice during typical pregnancy. And as I've said, of course, if someone does have a health related complication, yes, we want them to have supports they need, including an accessible parking placard. But for most people who are pregnant, that's unnecessary, and I think that's another unintended consequence, is sending this idea that pregnant people are more frail and not um, able to kind of make their own choices and um, move about in the community as they are right now.
Right. And those supports for people who are pregnant are already in place, which is like you
Yes.
mentioned, go to your doctor,
Mhm.
get, and being able to get a placard, a temporary placard, is something they can do. Now, does a temporary placard look different? Like, does it have an expiration date on it?
I'm not sure how. I don't think our bill has gotten into those specifics yet. I've wondered about that too, and I think there's different thoughts around, how long after pregnancy is it still valid? I know, like in Ohio, it's kind of strange in that I believe that the only group that has a permanent disability placard are veterans that, and somehow their placard is different. But like myself, even though I was born with my disability and I will always have my disability, I still have to get mine, reauthorized I think it's every 5 years. Um, so yeah, that's another good question: is would these placards look different? Would we would we be able to tell when they expired, or is it another case of once you have one, you have one? And we know that's also been a problem of, unfortunately, family members using loved ones who have passed away, non-disabled family members still using that placard, which just contributes again to the abuse in spaces and the shortage that we see, because um, there's more placards out there than there are spots, unfortunately.
Now, and I know you're not an expert in this issue, or not an expert in the ADA, but do you know what is the ADA's mandate on parking, or is there one?
There is one, and I want to say that it is 2% um, of spots need to be accessible, van accessible, I believe. There are also specifications broken down, like by how many spots you need with those, like, the hash marks beside them, the loading zones kind of.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the ADA also specifies maybe slightly different for health centers. And maybe that's my wishful thinking, but I'm trying to remember if that's in 504, Section 504, which is a law that prohibits discrimination in public sectors settings like hospitals, those types of places. So I can't remember which law it is, but I want to say that there's a slightly increased number of spots that have to be for a healthcare setting, which would, make sense. But yeah, the percentage of spots that are allocated is pretty low. And also, I mean, when you think about when the ADA was originally written, 1990, our prevalence rates of disability have increased since then. Our population is older. We have more people aging into disability. And hopefully we have more people with disabilities out and about in the community, meaning that, we likely have more people with disabilities that need those spots than we did in 1990.
Right. So it's already, over 30 years behind. And now
Yeah.
we're adding more to what that law needs to do. And I'm thinking, you mentioned health centers, and I'm thinking about, okay, the just the area clinic that I go to houses like my doctor, my kid's pediatrician, and also like the OBGYN. Well, if people who are pregnant can park in those accessible spots, then how is a person in a van, who needs that extra space, ever to find a parking space there?
Right.
It almost renders that facility completely inaccessible to a person in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you can't get in the front door, whether it be because the front door has steps or the parking lot is such that I can never get a spot that I can get out of my vehicle,
Right.
then yeah, so I worry that it would drastically shift community access at large. So
Hmm. Yeah.
um, and I did pull up a quick stat for us. So according to the ADA, the percentages are they average out to about 3%, but it depends a little bit on the number of spots in the parking lot. So for example, if there's 100 spots in the parking lot, they only need 4 accessible spaces, all the way up to if there's more than 500 spots, they need 2%. So we're looking at like what is 2% of? I guess we're looking at 10. Is that right?
Hmm.
So yeah, which seems, 10 spots out of 500 is
Hmm.
um, not a lot.
Not a
So
lot. No,
yeah.
no, not a lot. Um, Now, because you care about everyone, as you do,
I do.
in your article, you also say, okay, if improved maternal health is what we're going for here, there are a few things that we can do.
Yeah.
And you talk about some of those. And I want to bring those up now because I think it is important to say if really you care about maternal health, I'm thrilled for that. These are how you can really help. So do you want me to read off some of those? Because I have the article. I didn't ask you to come fully, prepared.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Which ones would you like to talk about? Yeah.
Medicaid.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
letting more people have access to Medicaid.
Yeah. And again, we got to be careful about those unintentional consequences, right? So when we create more bureaucratic hoops to jump through, for example, when we reduce eligibility periods down to where we need people to fill out paperwork twice a year now instead of once a year. And all of that unfortunately results in people falling through the cracks. So, and we know that, prenatal care and healthcare during pregnancy is so critical for not only the pregnant person, but the baby and really our society at large. So yeah, that's definitely something that could support better maternal health. That would be huge, I think. Um,
And
yeah.
yeah. And in your words, we have guaranteed parental leave like
Yeah.
every other developed nation does.
Yeah. That would be great.
That
That
would be good.
you
That's
know,
one for
I
the
sometimes,
win. One
yeah,
for
I
the win right
sometimes
there. Yeah.
wonder, like, why do policies like this pregnancy accessible parking issue, like those types of policies, it feels like kind of catch on like wildfire, but then why hasn't the paid parental leave caught on? I don't, we're really behind in that
Because it's
compared to,
easy.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's easy. And like
yeah,
you said, it's performative because it's not actually getting to the root of a problem. Because let's face
yeah,
it, real problems are hard to solve.
definitely, yeah,
They are because of, like you said, those unintended consequences and taking every voice into account. They take a while. They take time, money, and expertise.
yeah,
And this uh, solving, being a solution in search of a problem is easy.
right. Pretending like you're doing something.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That's easy.
yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah, I think,
expand access to safe and affordable housing.
mhm,
Um,
yeah, gotta have places to live if we're pro family,
yeah,
which,
I just
these bills are also marketed kind of as like pro family, and that's important.
right. Yeah, I recently had an episode titled "Housing is Healthcare." So
Yeah.
yeah, so that would I think not being homeless would certainly help maternal outcomes.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh,
Definitely. And there are things, concrete policy things that we could do to support people to have housing. And I see a lot of overlap, and I'm sure you do as well, with with these recommendations too, related to people with disabilities, just recognizing that again, there are also disabled pregnant people. So it's
yes.
really unfortunate that this sort of debate it's felt like has sort of been pitting these two camps against each other when there are many of us that have been, or are a part of both camps. But I just think about, especially protecting reproductive health care and and that's especially important to people with disabilities who already have so many barriers in place to making decisions about building a family. And so, I mean, when I'm thinking about what we could actually do to support maternal health, I'm thinking about people with and without disabilities, but it's hard not to notice that there's, a heightened experience of challenges usually for people with disabilities.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's making us fight against each other. Two groups who are already marginalized.
Yeah.
And Kimberly Tiso is the CEO of Able, South Carolina. And
Yeah.
she wrote a newsletter, and the headline was, "We don't have to play parking space Hunger Games."
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just no need.
No, there's no need for us to. There is enough for everybody if everybody doesn't take more than their share, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Just make good decisions, and be thoughtful, and empathy, goes a long way. And that's what I wish I saw lived out kind of more in the Hunger Games of parking lots.
right, right. Um, and you have been very involved with maternal health. This is an important issue to you. You were
Yeah.
involved in the Accessible Pregnancy Access Plan.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm really excited about this tool now that it's like out in the wild. I developed it a few years ago, and then I had a chance to pilot it with some incredible pregnant people with disabilities, and now it's available. And so, I mean, in its most basic sense, it's a birth plan, but it's much more than that because it's a birth plan that you complete with another disabled person who has been pregnant before. And the other thing that makes it really unique is that in addition to talking about what supports and accommodations you need and want during pregnancy, during labor and birth, and then shortly after in the hospital, we also have those really hard discussions about stigma that many pregnant people with disabilities face, sometimes from their own families, about beliefs about whether people with disabilities should be parents or not. And so we have a chance to talk about that and reflect and support each other. And so the plan itself, looks maybe like many birth plans do in terms of I need this at the hospital and I need the nurses to know this about me. But the kind of magic behind the plan is that relationship and connection and building it with another person that's been where you are at that moment.
And it's interesting. I've never thought about that. A lot of birth plans will be things like I need soothing music in the
Right.
background turned up to volume, 4 and no
Yeah.
louder, things like that. But
Yeah, I had to resist my own kind of cringe when I started this process. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot call this a birth plan," because I'd always thought about that too, like I need green M&Ms and I, and I think what was like even most insulting to me about that idea is that as a disabled woman I had what was considered a high risk pregnancy, I actually got very few choices because, everything was like, well, no, your husband can't be in the room with you because you'll be under anesthesia. And so I didn't have these kind of like fluffy decisions of who, the three people that will be in the room for me, or I mean, and I'm not mocking that. That's wonderful if you have that. But so it really led me to think, okay, of the choices that I did have, how, and also what what did I need? What accommodations do you need? And I think it's really unfortunate when we just ask people that question without any help because many people are like, well, I don't know. I've never given birth before.
mhm,
Like, what's
mhm.
available? What would people even offer me? And so we don't start with just that blank question of what accommodations do you need. We start with here's what many other women have benefited from and that now knowing that, what do you think might help you? And it's a whole process that we walk through. But yeah, I'm really excited about it getting out into the world.
And I will put a link to that in the show notes.
Thank you.
And I love this idea because I I remember, like, even now, okay, every time I go to have like an MRI or any procedure, any medical staff that you're dealing with, you are, as a disabled person, educating them like real quick, 30 seconds
Yeah.
about your body, right? This
Yeah.
is what it won't do. This is what it will do. This is why that thing that you want me to do is not going to happen.
Right.
I can't imagine doing that while being about to give birth.
Yeah.
Because without that plan, that is exactly what would happen, right?
hmm Yeah, and it's just really unfair as well because this is such a, life-altering moment that you should also, as a disabled person, just be able to enjoy that and not have to constantly be, wearing that advocacy hat and worrying about your own safety in some cases and or the safety of your baby. So it's not a magic wand because you still run into people that best laid plans, right? That
Oh,
they're
yes.
informed, they're educated and they still choose. But I find that the majority of people that you'll encounter with a little bit of education and knowledge, they'll do better. They know better, they do better.
Yep. Yep. And that's what we want with this. That's why we want to shed light on this parking situation, right?
Yeah,
Maybe legislators will see better and do better.
I hope so. Yeah, there's lots of options to do that. And I think many constituents like you and I would love to work alongside with them and in doing so and kind of make those intentions more true to form, right? And play out
Ab-
in their impact. Yeah.
Absolutely. Kara Ayers, it's always enlightening to talk with you. I love it so
Yeah,
much.
me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us here on Demand and Disrupt.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Demand and Disrupt is a production of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living based in Louisville, Kentucky. Our executive producers are me, Kimberly Parsley, and Dave Mathis. Our sound engineer is Michael Parsley. Thanks to Chris Ankin for the use of his song, Change. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please consider leaving a review. You can find links to our email and social media in the show notes. Please reach out and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everyone.
Just for once, I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. War of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up our minds and hearts to change. Then what will be. Disregard for good to set us free. There's just no way of knowing if love lives anymore. Turn out the light, then close the door. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up.